gifted and black.
It's time to get into an interview that I am happy to bring you. We have, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is that I just came across a film entitled Betrayal of a Nation that is still in the process of being made, so it's not yet completed. And just the message of the film, everything overall, it made me want to reach out. So I reached out to the director of the film, who was Brandi Webb, and she got back to me. She agreed to do this interview. So we have that, as well as her producer, Tracy, as well. So we're going to get into talking to these two just amazing women who are bringing us and creating a film that is just going to touch a lot of people. So I'm really looking forward to this. We're going to get into some music. On the other side of that is going to be the interview with me and these amazing women. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome a guest onto this podcast. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that I had found an independent movie that really piqued my interest, and it was being put together, and there's a GoFundMe for it, and we'll talk about all that. But I want to get into the guest herself, the woman of the hour. We have Miss Brandi Webb in the building, making the film Betrayal of a Nation, which I said we'll talk about. We also have her producer as well, Trina, in the building. Ladies, how are you guys doing today?
Doing good. Doing well.
So, Brandi, I mean, before we get into talking about Betrayal of a Nation, just so the audience can get to know a little bit about you and both you ladies and just what inspires you, how'd you get into filmmaking?
So I actually grew up as a child, probably since the age of 8, acting. So I've always been around, productions, being in plays and doing theater. And then by the time I got to college, I started producing my own plays. And then I had this one particular play called Sincere's Heart. And I was so in love with the story that I just said, you know what, I want to see if I could actually make this into a movie. And so I took a shot at it. Trina was a producer on that as well. And we tackled that back in 2013. And since then, it's been our mission to just do film now. So it's what we fell in love with.
That's amazing. And Trina, what about you? What first got you into doing film?
Well, for me, I started out as an actress or actor as well. And I just thought, there isn't really a lot of stuff out there for African Americans. And it would be nice to create some content for our people. And so in working with Brandi on Sincere's Heart, I realized that I really enjoyed doing that type of work and producing, and also that I was really good at it. And so I just continued doing that.
That's just amazing. To be able to find your calling like that. That's kind of how I am with this podcast. Like, I got into doing it. I had the thought too, I would never think I'd be doing something like this. And it's just what I'm able to do with it, as far as like stuff like this is putting out things for people to hear and find out about that they maybe otherwise not do. I've fallen in love with it. So it's great to be able to find kind of your calling and stuff. What are some of your favorite films or films that inspire you? Trina, I'll come to you first on this one, and then we'll go to Brandi.
Well, some of the films that inspire me is I like comedy and I like horror. So Coming to America, I really enjoy that. And I really enjoy the Saw series. And I just like the fact that you can put something together and you can take the audience on a journey. And I just feel like with Saw and with Coming to America, it did that for me, and it really just kind of inspired me.
That's awesome. How have you found yourself not really stealing, but using any of the techniques from some of your favorite films in the films that you create?
Oh yeah, I enjoy one of the other filmmakers that inspire me is M. Night Shyamalan, and I'm probably botching his name up, but I find myself my technique, because I did my own little short a couple months ago, is much like his. I like to take the audience on a journey and kind of cut things up in a way that you have to figure it out. So yeah, I kind of adapted his technique, and, you know, creating my own stories.
And he does horror.
Yes, he
does.
And
he's a horror filmmaker. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got Glass, the sequel to Split is coming out soon, and I can't wait for that. He's definitely found his groove back over the last few years. Yeah. So Brandi, what about you? What are some of your favorite films and films that inspire you?
So I am like a 90s head. I was born in the 80s, but I grew up in the 90s. So I'm in love with the classic Black movies of that time. So when you think of like Love Jones, Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X, you know, all those movies, Boys in the Hood, so Baby Boy, even though that's more than 2000. So I just love classic Black films. I mean, I love other genres as well, but if you're asking what films that I really take an interest into, I would say that. I have always been a Spike Lee fan.
Okay.
And so I feel that like my films tend to, at least my narrative films, tend to take on a kind of 90s vibe, or if you think like He Got Game, or like I said, Do the Right Thing type of, but Spike Lee definitely has his own style. And then when it comes to, we're now in 2018, and now I've taken such an interest into activism with everything that's going on, because I'm very passionate about just, you know, my people, my community, and having justice for my people. So right now, it's definitely Ava DuVernay. Her work tends to reflect the times and what's going on. So I'm a big fan of the 13th, and I was actually working on Betrayal of a Nation at the same time that I was watching the 13th on the screen, and it just let me know that I was definitely on the right track. You know, I was really inspired. That inspired me to just continue further and to not give up and just keep on going to get this important message out there, because, you know, like we have to get justice for people of color in America. So right now, Ava DuVernay is someone that I really look up to when it comes to what I call artivism, mixing your art with activism.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that anymore. And I guess that's the perfect way to segue into Betrayal of a Nation. And, you know, I'll feel free to take it away at any time, but it's a documentary. It's kind of like a hybrid between a traditional documentary with more of a traditional film pieces as well. And I feel like that style is just unique, and it's amazing. How did you first land on the concept of Betrayal of a Nation, and then when did you decide that was the style that you wanted to present the film in?
Okay, so I come from a background of doing narratives. I started out producing plays, and so my world is just coming up with stories, not so much documentaries, which are unscripted. And, you know, when I saw back to back and so on social media and in the news, the shooting of Philando Castile and the murder of Alton Sterling, you know, those happened back to back. That was just the icing on the cake for me, as far as what I had already been feeling about what's going on in my community. And I remember just crying and saying, when is this going to stop? And saying, what can I do about it? Because, you know, as citizens, we know that something must be done, but a lot of times we're not sure what our role in it would be, and you feel helpless. And so I just made a decision that I wanted to produce something that would, I guess, aid in figuring out how to get justice, or answer questions as to who do we hold accountable as a people, you know, so this way we can come up with a resolution. And so I of course, I had to stick to my natural element, which is scripted stories. So I came up with the courtroom scene, and then the documentary aspect is what was new for me, because I felt like it was important to actually hear from the people that have been directly affected by real life stories, you know. So I've interviewed Miss Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner, Samaria Rice, the mother of Tamir Rice, Akeem Browder, the brother of Khalif Browder, along with many others. And I felt like it was really important to incorporate their stories. And I think that in itself just naturally aided the hybrid, the mixing of the courtroom scenes and using these documentary-style interviews as evidence for the trial to help convict the United States government for crimes against its citizens of color.
And when you reached out to do the interviews, how was that met when you reached out to all these individuals to ask them to tell their story and to share the things that them and their family have been through? Was there ever any like hesitation to share, or were they more than willing and open to really get that out there once they found out about the message and what you were trying to do with the film?
It was hard, because this is a passion project and we really didn't have any money going into it. And, I and Trina literally put our own funds into the production, which really wasn't much. Just it started off. So we didn't have the funds to really offer, to pay anyone, top dollar or fly them in. So we could only do what we could do. So we went off of basically just hoping that, some of these families would just be packed, believe in our vision, and share the interest in getting us to, share their story on camera for our film. And, so there were some people that turned us down. And, there were some that were just like, sure. And then there were others that, they said yes, but we had to just keep following up to eventually get their interview. So that was the process. And, we're still in the middle of the process, actually. So we're still reaching out to more people. And, I guess it's the nature of the business, especially when you're doing an independent project.
Okay. And Trina, I'm going to come to you. Like when you and Bernie sat down and you guys kind of, I'm not sure if it was a group decision or she just presented the idea to you. Was there ever a time when you were like, I get it. I feel what you want to do here, but were you ever worried like we may not be able to execute this? Was there ever a time where it was like, how are we going to do this?
It's funny you asked that because Brandi and I talk about this all the time. Getting me involved was quite difficult for Brandi at first because I just wasn't sure that I wanted to produce a documentary because I was my head was in feature films and things like that. So when she presented the idea to me as just an idea, I did say this is going to be challenging, ambitious, because we have to get it done. We were trying to get it done in a certain time frame. We needed the money to put up for the courtroom scenes, and it just seemed like a lot, and it seemed like overly ambitious. Like it was just a project that she seemed like she was just overly ambitious about, and I at first was like, this is just a lot. But then I read the script, and when I read the script, it was like, okay, I have to be involved. Like I enjoyed the story. I thought that it was a story that just needed to be told, and then I was surprised at the whole courtroom scene and then the documentary aspect of it, that some of it was scripted. And so I like doing scripted stuff. And, I actually learned a lot while working on this documentary. And I'm actually happy that I did get involved.
That's great. And I'm trying to think how I want to ask this next question is, so with these stories being shared and just being as entrenched in this as I'm sure you guys are both are, has there been a moment, or there may have been several, in which you're getting these interviews or even putting together the scripted part and just putting the film together where you kind of just have to stop and gather yourself? Like, have you ever gotten emotional over these stories that are being shared in this film?
And so for me, definitely, quite frequently, the trailer that I cut together, I had to watch the entire footage. I'm not sure if you've seen the trailer, but I was up with the shooting of Philando Castile. Mm-hmm. And so although it was a few seconds, I actually watched the entire footage. And so I just sat there bawling and crying, and it was just very emotional. And so shooting this, I've also had to attend many protests as well, which was very emotional for me. And then just hearing the stories and watching the loved ones of those that we've lost, telling their story and feeling their emotion was quite emotional for me, because I'm there behind the camera And as a human being, I want to console them, you know? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, like, you don't know what to say to an individual that has experienced a great loss. So, you know, so definitely emotional, and I've had many times of just feeling sad, feeling depressed. This is definitely a journey that we've been on. And so I'm so grateful for it, but there are days that can be very draining, just to put this, you know, just to get the message out there. But I look at it like it's for the greater good. So if I have to be depressed, if I have to be sad some days, just to get the viewer to understand what's going on and to help get a powerful message out there and come up with possible resolutions to those problems, then I feel like it'll all be worth it. So I kind of look at it like I am the fight for my community through my art.
And the title, Betrayal of a Nation, that title alone is a lot of power in that. How'd you settle in on that being the title of the film?
So I actually co-wrote this film with another woman named Genesis Scott, and together we came up with the title. And we started just throwing a few titles out there. We had already come up with what the concept would be. And then something hit where I don't remember which one of us it was, but we shouted out Betrayal of a Nation. And we just looked at each other with that light in our eyes, and we just knew that was it, you know, because at the end of the day, our nation has betrayed us from the very beginning. This country, this whole system was not designed for people of color. It was designed to keep people of color oppressed, you know. Absolutely. So we have always been betrayed by our nation. So I just felt like that title was definitely one that was fitting, you know. In the words of Assemblyman Charles Barron, you know, they stole us, they sold us, they worked us, and now they owe us. So
that's an amazing story. That's and I knew it. Like once you see a title like that, you feel it, and that's one of the things that drew me into it. And so I want to kind of put this back and reflect back on both of you guys. What's one thing in the process of making this film, preparing it, and I know it's not done yet, and we'll get into that next, but what's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself in the process of making this movie?
So for me, I would say the biggest thing I've learned was that I cannot just stop here. You know, like this for me is bigger than a movie. It's bigger than a film. It's bigger than me. So this is great to get the conversation started. But for me, I learned that I am an activist. Before doing this production, I did not consider myself to be an activist. But now I do. And I've gone further to put my hand in activism. So I'm a part of an activist organization called the Justice League. And I just try to do whatever I can to just be involved and to just do the best I can, to do whatever I can to better my people and my community. So for me, I learned that it doesn't stop here, and I have to keep going. Whether that means producing more content that deals with issues in the community, or whether that means just Brandi as a human being, getting out there and doing her part as a citizen, as a community member to help those that are in need.
And for me, you know, working on this documentary, what it taught me about myself is that I just pretty much need to love, you know, my people more, and have more empathy for the Black man. Because it's not really the way that I've lived my life. And so I learned so much, and I found myself, like, I've only been around for some of the interviews that took place. I found myself becoming very angry at, you know, the things that Black people have experienced, and more specifically Black men, especially with the jail system. And so it just makes me want to do more and love Black people more. When in fact, I don't know that I had that love before there. It was just kind of like, you know, I'm Black and there's Black people and, you know, things are going on. But I feel like I've developed a passion for the Black man, and I think that is a good thing.
That absolutely. That absolutely is. That's powerful. What? And so taking the film and establishing the GoFundMe, when was that decision made, and what's been the response so far? And how has that brought more eyes to the project, and just that whole experience of going the GoFundMe route? How has that been so far?
So I actually started the GoFundMe about a year ago, but I never publicly marketed it. So I started the page, but I never said anything to anyone. I knew that we needed more money in order to move forward. But my mentality a year ago was, we're going to push this as far as we can possibly go without the money that we need. And we did that. And now we reach our capacity where we said we definitely cannot move forward at this point without having the rest of the money that we need. And so I started putting the GoFundMe link out there and advertising to actually try and get funding. And it's been received pretty well, and I'm just grateful that there are people out there that actually do believe in our vision, our project, and that see that this is bigger than the individuals that are behind it, and so I just think that, what we did was put this message out there in hopes that it would just be received positively, and we're definitely getting that. And, right now we raised over $4,000 out of $15,000, so we still have a long ways to go, but I'm feeling very optimistic about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and hopefully this goes away and helping, and this isn't to brag about numbers or anything, but this podcast is subscribed to about 2,500 people. And I just hope that, and for anyone who's listening, the GoFundMe link will be in the description of this episode. Definitely go out and support this film. If you can't tell from this interview thus far, it's definitely something that's important. It's definitely something powerful. Ladies, I want to ask you both this, and this will kind of be the last thing before we transition into just one more thing before I let you ladies go. But if you had to sum up Betrayal of a Nation in 3 words or less, how would you sum it up? Brandi?
I would say justice, resolution, and reparations.
And I would say enlightenment, accurate, and powerful.
That is powerful. I really don't know how else to sum that up. Everyone, you've heard about it. We've talked about it. Definitely go out and support this film. This is something that for the culture, we need to come together and make this happen as best that we can. And before I let you ladies go, the Awakened Soul, the podcast, music is a huge part of this podcast. And I asked all my first time guests this: if you had to pick 3 songs to be on the playlist of your life, what would it be? Trina, I'm gonna come to you first on this one.
Repeat the question. You said a playlist?
If you had to pick, what 3 songs would you pick to go on the playlist that represents your life?
I would say Staying Alive. I'm a Survivor, and You Can't Touch This.
Woo. All right. Yeah, that's descriptive enough. If you can't get the message with that one, you guys aren't paying attention. Brandi, what about you?
Okay. I would have to say Ain't No Stopping Us Now. I Am the Eye of the Tiger. Is that the actual title? I'm not sure.
I think it's just
I know that's the hook.
Yeah.
I've got the eye of the tiger. And I would say the third one would probably be, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to still Trina's on Survivor.
All right. I like those lists. All right, so this is the time now before we end where you guys get to plug, do your shouts out, anything that you want to do, but definitely tell the listeners where they can find you if they want to support you, if you have any social media out there that they can support, as well as just plug anything that you're working on in addition to this film. Trina, we'll give you the stage first, and then Brandi will come to you.
I'll defer to Brandi. All of the information, she has it. Brandi, you can go ahead.
Okay.
So if anyone would like to donate or just share links for others that may be able to donate, they can find all that information on my social media. So that would be at I Am Brandi Webb, and that goes for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Donations also can be made directly on the GoFundMe.com website by simply typing Betrayal of a Nation in the search box, or you can go directly to our website, which is www.get2, evolve.com. And I am Brandi Webb, by the way, is spelled IamBrandivWebb. Thank you.
All righty, and ladies, thank you so much for taking this time out your day. I know you guys are busy. Brandi, I know you just got back in the country, correct?
Yes, I did. Yes. And this interview was really fun, so I appreciate it. Thank you, Kadaro, for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Anytime. Thank you. I definitely appreciate it. Hopefully this helps, and I love what you guys are doing, and it's powerful. So I definitely, I just want to, if no one else tells you, I want to